Hey everyone, Monster Art School. It's Egypt week. So we're going to be drawing Sekhmet from ancient Egypt. This was I'm forgetting what this is a goddess of, but I used to know this. I don't have my partner here to help me today. She's been going outside and playing. A horrible child. So now I have to draw all by myself. So, we're going to draw Sekhmet, who's a lion-headed goddess from ancient Egypt. And like I said yesterday, it's kind of weird doing all these Egyptian gods and goddesses. I guess I kind of want to get over this soon. Started it last week or the end of last week. And I want to get it over soon because a lot of them are just people with animal heads. So I kind of want to try something a little different than that usual thing. But this is kind of a cool one because she's a lion-headed goddess. So I'm going to get out my book on big cats so I have some reference for that. And we're going to look at what basically makes up a lion's head and how we can draw the lion's head. So I think this one's going to be a little bit more instructional than some of the others. So if we look inside this creature, what we're looking for is what are the basic shapes we see here. Let's find one where he's not covered, or she's not covered in blood. Not that that's a bad thing. It's just, a little less gruesome. But here, let's see. This one here we can use. Whoops. I'm crushing my paper. So the shapes I see a lot on cats is a lot of triangular shapes. Let me find a piece of paper so I can draw. So what we're going to do when we look at the cat, oops, you can't see the photo. Let me move it over. When we look at the cat's head, what we want to look for is what are the shapes we're getting here. So while the eyeball is round, if you look at that shape, it's kind of a triangle. So the eyes are kind of triangular like that. Now granted, I'm going to make them more elaborate than that, but I want you to see how I see shapes. So this eye here is a triangle like that. The ear is a rounded triangle, like so. And you can go through the head and look at, like, say, the nose, the lower nose here is clearly a thin triangle. And even here, if you run a line up here, you can see a triangle that makes up the structure of that nose. So I always look for things like that to kind of help me figure out what I'm drawing and why I'm drawing it. So now if we look closer at the eye here, we'll see there's a lower eyelid like that kind of follows that shape right through here. And there's almost no upper eyelid. But then down here where the cheekbone is, this area right there, has another triangle. See? So we want to look for those shapes so that we can build them out. What shape is this? Well, I'm going to say if we have the triangle shape there, and the eyes are about here, we can draw from here and around to create the muzzle, and we'll draw from here and around and create the muzzle on this side. You see, it's just once you find those basic shapes, you can kind of build from there. The basic shape of the chin is kind of a, I don't even know what you'd call that shape, but it's kind of built like that. So what I want you to do is look for, when you're looking at your reference or you're looking at things in real life, always look for easy to see shapes. Sometimes they're going to be really simple, and sometimes they're going to be a little harder. Like, what is this shape here, right? It's kind of a crescent. So if I drew a crescent there, that wouldn't be too far off. And then those basic shapes really kind of can give you the idea of how to construct the creature from there. So this is going to be my reference for Bast. Wait, I said Bastet. It's not Bast. It's Sekhmet. Bast is also a female lion-headed goddess from Egypt, but we're not drawing Bast. We're drawing Sekhmet. Don't ask me what the difference is, because unfortunately, I should have done more research on it and I didn't. But didn't have as much time as I sometimes do to look into stuff. But when I was at the Metropolitan Museum of Art a few years ago, not even a few years ago, a few months ago, I sat down and watched and looked at the statues that were at the Met, and they were really exciting because there were a lot of statues of Sekhmet. I just forget what she's the goddess of. If anyone can tell me, I want to say she's a death goddess, but she's not really. Anyway, so what they were going to start with this is we're going to try to go down to basic shapes again, just like we were looking at with the lion head. Let's go to some basic shapes to start off. So I'm going to start about halfway in the piece here, and we're going to draw a triangle, kind of a curved triangle, like so. And that's going to be where the legs are going to be. And the way I'm going to treat that is the legs being kind of I know she was a warrior goddess. But the legs are kind of you want to have them coming out like so. So I was going to have her in a fighting stance, which is appropriate. And she generally carries two curved blades, or kind of angular curved blades. So that's part of the thing that I was going for too. But just think of this arc like so. And then right here we'll throw an ellipse. And then what I want to do is I want to create a sense that her hips are at this angle and her shoulders are at this angle, because that gives you the ability to have a steady stance. So this knee will be up, so this leg will be more straight, and this leg will arc in and come like so. So now we were going to have her upper torso, but I'm going to have it bent over, just because, hey, I want her looking ready to fight here. I'll lower this a little bit just for fun. And then we're going to bring this area, this upper torso shape, into the hip shape. Now, next step is we're going to do a basic orb for the head right here, just so that we have that. And then there's going to be another orb up here, or sphere up here. That's part of her headdress. We'll get to that in a little bit. Now, we're going to draw elbows. And remember, the elbows are going to be right around this area here. So if you draw a loop up from the bottom of the rib cage and around, that should be where the elbows should end up. And then we'll draw one hand over here and one hand over here. Now, normally I would say the hands are at mid-thigh, but since she's tilting this leg toward us, the hands are going to be a little bit further, and plus she's bringing her chest toward us. You'll see in a little bit what I'm talking about. So now, actually I'm going to tilt her head this way because I think it looks cooler. Also, it'll match the reference a little bit better. And then we're going to draw down the center of that to show where the midline is, where the crosshairs are. So that's going to be the center of the head right there. Now, I don't know if I want to be quite looking that far over that way. So I'm going to have it more central, like so. And we'll have this come around like that. Now that we have this shape here, let's go ahead and build and decide where we want the nose. So we're going to want the nose somewhere around here. Now, It's not going to be, if you look at the lion before that we were drawing from, it's nowhere, the nose is not up here. The nose is about 3/4 of the way down the head. If you're going from the back of the skull to the jaw, it's like 3/4 of the way down, maybe a little further. So we're just going to put that in here. So up here, this is the back of their skull. If you were looking at the lion's head from the side, you might see a shape like this, but they're almost never like that. They're almost always having their head down like so. So because of that, we will see the top edge of the skull. So anyway, let's go. So now we've got the lower triangle of the nose. And then we said right above the eyes here, we're going to build that triangle that comes down and forms the nose structure. And then on either side of that, we're going to put two small spheres. For now, they'll be spheres. Eventually, I'm going to turn them into triangles. Well, actually, here, we'll make them triangles now. So you make them just like, you should treat the eyes kind of like that. So it's a curved line here, curved down here, and then curved up here. And then you can draw the pupil in like so. So we'll have curve and a point and a curve and a point, and then we can do the same on this side. Remember, this side's going to be a little smaller, a little thinner, because it's further away from us. But it's still going to have this kind of black area up here and this black tear duct down here. Now, under here, we had that lower eyelid, and then the triangle that kind of came down like this. We won't see much of that triangle on this side. And then we had that shape that comes around like so. Okay? You'll start to see the lion starting to show up in here, right? And you can give these shapes a little bit more of a boxiness. You can draw them as like a triangle and a sphere and a like that, if that helps you. Not a sphere, but a triangle and ellipse. And then right up here, there's going to be the brow ridge coming back. And we'll do the same over here, back to that shape there. And then for the mouth, I want to have the mouth a little open. So I will draw, remember we had that kind of upside down pyramid shape there? We're going to have that. This is going to come up. We have that crescent out here that we talked about. Remember? And then we're going to have those triangle ears back here. Okay? So your head should somewhat look like this, okay? Now, the neck, because she's half human, half lion, is going to be very unrealistic. So what's nice about the Egyptians is that they covered all that stuff with headdresses and stuff, so we can do the same. Now, to get to Sekhmet, we're going to have a headdress that kind of comes down like so. And I was looking at a couple different Sekhmet pictures, and she's got a headdress from sculptures. She's got a headdress that comes down triangularly on some of them, and I liked that. And then the headdress would come back like this. And like so. So we're just going to draw like a half circle like that, another kind of half circle there, and then connect them. And on this we'll draw in and out and in, and then we'll connect them so it looks like fluid flowing cloth. And then we'll continue that line all the way over to this ear here. And right up here, we're going to put a small ellipse. It's actually part of her headdress. And then there's going to be a bigger one. We showed it there before, but I kind of moved it around. there's going to be another sphere up here. And I'm not really sure why, but in all the statues, she always has that. So I'm not really sure what it symbolizes. I imagine it's kind of like a halo, because I've seen some of them with, like, it looks like a fireball around her head. So actually I'll put that in because I think that's kind of cool. We'll do that, and then we can draw little fire shapes. And I always like to, if you're going to draw fire shapes that are kind of sculpted, just draw them like they're a regular pattern, as opposed to trying to draw them like actual fire. So you just go like this. And then we can have ears come out like this, and you can throw in some fur in there. So now we've got essentially the upper body, the upper head of Sekhmet. Now, down here, because we had the body leaning over so much, what we're going to do is we're going to throw an arc. Remember that arc we did there? Going to follow that arc a little bit out like so. And we'll make another one up here. And we'll do another one down here. And these are going to be her necklaces. I don't know if they're ceremonial necklaces or if they're necklaces that all the higher-ups got to wear in Egyptian, like the pharaohs and stuff. But they're always depicted as wearing these. Oh, I forgot teeth. Remember? 2 big fangs, little teeth in here, like 4 little teeth in between the 2 big fangs. And you can do the same down here. I wouldn't worry about it though. Fang, tooth, fang. There. Now, the next step, remember all this stuff we did in here. We're going to simplify this down into a single arc like so, and bring it around like that. And I think I'm going to do something a little different. So instead of just using that arc, I'm going to draw a straight line like so, this, and we're going to come up and up like that, and then we'll have another straight line underneath it. And what these straight lines are to represent is just to kind of give us a slightly more feminine figure there. So we know it's a female goddess, not a god. And then down here we'll put her belt. And then we can draw out from here and here. And I think we'll have a curve out this way, a curve out that way, and then we can bring this up over and around her knee and down like so. So over and around like that. And then this one will go over and around and down a little lower so they don't meet. And then we can have this, draw a curl there, have this come up like so, bring this below it, and have it come like that. So what you're creating is a curve, an arc, a loop around, and then here a straight line down, curve around, and then a curve out there. And what that's supposed to do is represent the cloth doing different things around the body. And from these corners here where the material's kind of pulled back over the legs, we're going to see the cloth kind of creating these fold shapes in here. Down here, let's make that into a little triangle so it looks like the cloth is folded over. And here, we'll have it look like it's coming around like so. Do that on this side too. Now, let's get some knees in there. Now, I was looking at some pictures of Sekhmet, and she's very well armored in the pictures I saw. So, or at least she appears to be. So I'm going to give her, there's her knee that we drew before. I'm going to bring this down. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's make that cylinder that we normally do, like a straight, simple cylinder, tapers a little as we go down. But then we want to bring the muscle of the back of the calf out like that, and the muscle side of the calf out like that. And that will exaggerate and accentuate the idea of this leg being curved out this way and moving away from us. And so then we can put an arc there and maybe a band, and then we'll make that an upper leg. And as we get down to here, what we can do is we want to draw from the ankle down a little bit out, and then we'll make a triangle like so. Then we're going to draw out again from that same line down there. We're going to draw out from here, and then we're going to draw an arc up like so. And then we're going to draw coming out like so, like that. And we'll do the same. These are just the basic shapes I want you to do. We'll do the same kind of thing over here. We'll have that knee here, and we'll put kind of that knee armor piece there, and that stripe. And then we'll bring this around like this, and we'll bring this down and into the ankle over here. And then we can draw down there just to kind of give it volume. Oh, over here, let's give this a little depth. I think I'm going to make these toes eventually, but I want it to have a little more depth. And then this foot will be turned this way, so we're going to draw down from the ankle out. There's the ankle. And then we'll draw down almost to a point and then back up. And we can do that here too. And we probably want that over here as well, because what we want to do is give the sense of the toes the way they align up. So it'll be a little longer here than on the other sides. Okay, now for this back arm, we're going to just pretend that we don't see it, but I'm going to draw that in anyway, just because we're not going to see it because of the headdress. I'm going to draw this kind of in anyway as an indication so we know where the elbow is, which is right about here. And then I'm going to draw a cylinder that tapers to here, and then a straight cylinder to there. And then we'll draw a box like that. On the other side, we can bring this down, draw that heavier, thicker cylinder here, then a thinner cylinder here, and then I think on this side I'm going to have her hand leaning out a little bit, so we'll have the box facing this way. Okay, now we're going to throw a weapon in that end there, and we'll throw a weapon in that end there. Just those sticks are good for now. Now, next step, we're going to want to draw these hands in and make them kind of more complete. So let's remember what we did here. We made these boxes, and these are going to be the fingers right here and here. So let's draw up to the fingers. First knuckle is there. We'll draw the knuckles in. Keep it loose because we're going to erase this. And then if she's going to have her hand wrapped around something, notice my fingers go out and then come back. So we want the knuckles coming out like this and then going back away so it can wrap around the object in the middle. So that's one knuckle. This knuckle will do the same. And then these ones will kind of come in a little. And you want, and I kind of didn't say this before, you want this knuckle to be the highest knuckle. So each one comes out and in like that. So you're going to get like these tubes going like so. And then the last segment of the fingers would be down here, but we won't see that because our thumb is in the way. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a knuckle right there and a thumb, the top of the thumb there. I drew that just so you could see where the thumbnail would go. And then we'll draw the pad of the thumb like that. And remember, we want to see kind of the pad of the hand there. Now we're probably going to block a lot of this because of the sword hilt is going to block it, but it's good to have it there so you can see it, so that when you're drawing it, you know it's there. Okay, so now we've got that arm in. This arm's looking a little wonky, so I'm going to move this down a little, just for comfort for me. There we go. And I'll tilt this out a little more. So now let's get to this other hand here. We're going to remember that original box that we drew, right? Remember a lot of stuff that you do in these drawings is we draw and then erase it so that we still have the ghost of it there. But we're looking for a hand that essentially is doing that. So if we're looking at that, we're seeing the top of the thumb, we're seeing the top of these fingers, and this kind of triangle shape of the hand. So let's put that triangle shape in. And we know that that triangle shape ends at the first thumb knuckle. So we'll put that first thumb knuckle in, and we'll bring this around to the second thumb knuckle and then down to that third digit of the thumb. And then these, because her hand's going to be out a little bit, we're going to put the knuckle of the back knuckles are going to be on this line here. The fingers are going to come out and then in like that. That's the basic positioning. So we're going to see the outside of this finger like so. And this finger is going to go underneath it like that. And then these ones, as they get further away from us, are going to get smaller and curve under. Now, the angle of the swords is going to be fun to try and figure out, but we'll get to that in a sec. So right here, we've got the pad of the thumb, we've got that upper knuckle there, and so the sword is actually going to come out right here. So you have to imagine a cylinder, which is the handle of the sword, going through the hand like that. Same as this one. Cylinder comes out and through. Okay, now let's erase the rest of that background material that gets in the way. Now, these swords are kind of fun. They don't, I didn't see much of a hilt on them, but I'll give them a little bit of a hilt. I don't even know if a hilt is necessary on a weapon like this. Actually, yeah, no hilt. I'm just going to draw it like that. And then it's going to come up. We're going to follow these lines up. And then this line's going to jag back like that. And that line's going to jag back like so. And then we're going to curve up, almost like a bolt of lightning. Like the Flash's symbol in superheroes. It's a bolt of lightning, like that. And we won't see the far side of the inside of the handle, so we'll just cover that up. And then we'll do the same over here. We're going to come up. And since this is at a different angle and coming toward us, we're going to see it a little differently. So come up, down, and out. Like so. Okay. Now we've got basically our full figure here. Oh, wait, what? Where do I teach art? I would like you to be my teacher when you're older. Well, I teach up at Syracuse University. That's where I teach. I teach illustration up there. So now we can get rid of that back arm. Yeah, they're called Khopesh. That's right. We were talking about this the other week, right? Now we can get rid of all these extra lines, and then we can start decorating the figure. This is kind of the fun part here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of some of these lines in here, because now that we've got them, And I wouldn't get rid of them completely, but you can get rid of a lot of the parts of them, because otherwise it starts to look like a Lego creature, like it's made up of all these angles. So you want to keep some of them there to kind of keep the idea of the structure, but you don't need to keep all of them there. So we can have this come down. Just kind of get rid of the ones when they get too intense. And then you can sharpen up your lines too. So you always go back and kind of look, oh, what line do I want to keep? What kind of line do I want to get rid of? I always go back and do that just to make sure that I'm keeping the lines that I want to keep. Now the bottom of the chin, they have very hairy bottoms of their chin. So I'm going to let this get kind of spiky. And you can just kind of let these spikes go in any direction you want. I just kind of like that. And then back here, we'll kind of give that a little bit of a fur thing just by adding a few spiky lines to kind of make it look a little bit furry. Doesn't have to be huge. And then we're going to have under the head, I'm going to darken up this area under here so that the head comes forward. It's also indicating a shadow, and I'll follow that shadow down underneath her chin, like so. Just so that we have that kind of going underneath there. Now we can see the head very nice and clearly. If you want, you can throw the whiskers on here. The Egyptians always, I remember one of the things I noticed about the sculptures, they always made sure to draw parallel lines denoting the whiskers, where the whiskers come out. So they thought that was a pretty important part of the face of the goddess. So I want to keep that in there. And then we can follow these lines down and around the claw. So this one would come like this, and maybe there's another one like that and like that. Now, the necklace parts, we want them all to come from the center of her neck. So if we say the center of her neck is there, we're going to draw these lines going to that point. And I can do the same here. Notice I'm not drawing all the line in between. I kind of just allow my hand to kind of measure it and then come back to it like that. Okay. Now, this up here, I'm not sure whether it's a disc or an orb. I think it's a disc. I know this back here is a disc, but I think this is a disc too. So we'll just put that on as a disc. And if you want to throw some shadow in the ear, which will help give it more volume, just put a little bit of depth in there by thickening up this line. Okay, now, well, people are asking me stuff. I want to take this drawing from right here and finish it in ink. Go for it. A lot of times when I'm drawing stuff for comics, I don't draw complete pencil drawings. I just do kind of what I'm doing. And then once I get to a stage like I was at a minute ago, I would just start inking it myself. So here's I decided to give us the upper arm there. And what I did was I pulled this out and then brought it in so we can see the structure of the inside of the rib cage there, right there. And then we can see her rib cage over this way. So we can see the tilt of her body. And what you're seeing, what these lines are doing here is they're kind of giving you the sense of the tilt of her body without seeing it. So these lines, these cloth lines are kind of showing you where the body is flowing underneath. So when I'm drawing these, I'm thinking about drawing over and around the forms of the body. So if the leg comes up like this, it's going to go over the leg and then down into the cloth. So like so, and that's why we get these, and then they bunch up here, so you're going to get multiple lines. That's kind of how I handle folds. And then we might have some that come over like this. So usually not. Okay, now let's get to the arms. So with the arms, I want to remember that I have this spear here that holds this arm up. And right about here, I'm going to put, this is where the anatomy is kind of shown by the designs on the creature. So if you've got a creature wearing like big wide bracelets, you can use those to show the direction of the anatomy. So by doing this, and you can put little decorations on them too. By doing that, what you've done is you've kind of supported the idea of the anatomy through the bracelet. You can do the same thing over here. So just following that volume through. She's got 2 different bracelets on. I think this one needs more detail though. It's starting to look too much like a He-Man bracelet from the 80s. So we'll throw some more designs on there. And one of the things to do too is if you want to create the sense of light hitting it, just erase some of these lines, and it gives the illusion that the metal has been hit by a highlight. And so you can't see the detail there. Now up here on the arm, you can throw a little bit of hair just to make sure that we know she's furry. And now let's get the feet and the knees in. Well, actually, let's get these hands done. So we've got this hand. Let's give her a fingernail. And then let's finish out these fingers. If you want to really reinforce the shape of the sword, draw lines like this, going around as if someone's wrapped the handle in leather. And that way it helps you see the form that you're drawing underneath. So this gives you the sense of that 3-dimensional quality of the sword that's going in her hands. Get rid of those extra lines. And then reinforce the lines that you want to see. Like so. Now, I'm going to smooth this out on this side because it actually technically wouldn't do that. It shouldn't fold up there. It should be a little bit more smooth here on this side. And then we can bring a thin belt around like so. This line here is really the indication of the diaphragm. So now let's get to these legs. I'm assuming she has hairy legs. And I'm going to put this triangle here to create a shadow of the cloth going over the leg. And I'll do the same on this side. Okay. And if you look at dresses and really pay attention to how they work, they do create these kinds of kind of curved shadows and arcs. So from back here, we want to continue the cloth around like so, and we can let that go into shadow too. And the same from over here as this cloth comes back around, and give it some variety. Go up and down and kind of around like that, as long as it still feels like the cloth is moving and it's still cloth. Then you can fill this all in with shadow here. Now, she has Dr. Doom boots. I just realized that. So up here, create that there, and then bring this down. And maybe we'll have this come to a point. And this would be, I forget what they're called, a greave, I think. Not a bracer. These bracers are on the arms. And then we can show her ankle. And then I think I'm going to make this a foot, not a boot. So we'll draw her heel here. And then this part here that's coming around like that, we'll get rid of that leg. But right here should be the ball of her foot, of the big toe. And then we'll see the toe should come up to the knuckle and then down. And then they should all follow that same basic pattern like so. So I'm giving her kind of humanoid lion feet. So they have 5 fingers, but they are toes like lion's toes. I don't know why, just because that's the way it is. And we can give some more fur down here, make it feel a little bit furry. And we'll put these lines here to show that the toes are kind of bent up like that. Bent down into the ground like she's, like we talked about yesterday, she's clinging to the ground with her toes. Because that's what animals do when they're getting ready to fight. They dig their toes in. So I'm thinking she's digging her toes in. And that way we could lift the heel a little bit and have it have a neat effect of the toes kind of building in. I'm going to just clean this up here. Now, here I'm going to make sure we know that this is metal by making it go outside the leg a little. So I don't want it to completely just follow the contour of the leg. And I can put some bands on it like that, and maybe a line going down the middle that goes up. And we'll do the same thing over here. So we'll have this part of the foot here, the interior line of the foot out to the ball of the foot, and then to the toe. And notice we're doing it through overlaps. Okay? And the overlaps here will give you the sense of things moving back. So I'm overlapping the toe in front of the ball of the foot, which is here in front of the body of the foot here. So now we're going to do the same here, toe, and the knuckle, and the body, and then toe and knuckle in the body, and then we'll bring this out and get that extra toe out there. And now, again, we're gonna draw this outside the area of her foot. And then, now we can start adding a little more decoration. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a stripe down here, which will then continue on the back, and a stripe here. Now I noticed on some of the Sekhmet statues, she wears clothes that have bands going down them on her dress. So what we want to do is we want to draw those bands going down the leg, down the contour of the leg. So we want to go over the folds, down over a fold, and then come around like that. And we'll pretend that there's one here, over fold, down like this. Well, we can't see the side of this one, so it's just going to come in like that. And then this one's going to do the same. And then eventually what's going to happen is they're going to straighten out as they get closer, and then they're going to start going the other way. Okay? And we can bring this down into here. This is actually one of the hardest things to do, because what you're really trying to do is imagine the surface of the outfit as that's covering the body as a three-dimensional object, and that becomes really hard if you're not used to thinking like that. So again, we'll start up here. We'll come down and across. We'll come down and across and over these folds. Over the folds. But basically, just remember, you're following the contour of the object underneath the cloth. So if the leg is going out, coming toward us, they're going to get wider as they get toward us, the stripes. And they're going to be arcing around the cloth. And don't worry, if you get this wrong the first time, this is not easy to do. This is like advanced arting here. So there's the dress. Now, maybe I don't think we want to have it on the top, because then it's just going to look too much like her necklace. But now we can start adding some shadows. Now, since we've decided that there's a shadow coming from this point on her chin, I think we can have a shadow on her arm over here from the headdress covering her. Her ear can cast a shadow, and her cheek can cast a shadow on the headdress right there. Maybe we have a shadow from the headdress on the upper body over here, like that. Maybe this part of the arm is in shadow too. And maybe we get a shadow underneath there. And also, her chest would cast a shadow here, so we'll put a shadow there to just show the chest. And we can even throw like a fold in here if we want, something to make it, or we could actually put a decorative thing on it like that. And now let's get down to inside the gauntlets or whatever these are, the greaves. You can put a little deep shadow in there. If the light's coming from this direction, you can put a shadow on that side of the sword hilt. You can do the same over here if you want. And then down here on the knees, we'll just make this look like it's reflective metal. So I always just kind of use some shiny lines like so to kind of make it feel reflective. And I always like to try to keep the reflection lines following, at least to some degree, the contour of the object. Because the reflections twist. If you have like if you ever look at a metal bumper on a car, the reflections will warp with the warp of the material of the bumper. So even though it's reflecting all the world around it, the reflections always warp in the fender or in the bumper. And so if you were wearing armor like this, all the reflections of the world around you would warp into these kind of weird abstract shapes. And then down here, let's don't forget the toenails, little tiny cat toenails there. And then we're gonna draw a shadow. Now, her knee is forward and her hips are back, so we're gonna draw the shadow to follow that. So the shadow's gonna go back, and then under her dress, and then back here. And we can bring this back to there. And there's our ground shadow. And we can keep that kind of loose because we're imagining there's lots of reflected light around that can light that up. And then I think something fun to do would be to, well, let's give her some eyes. Some pupils, I mean. Darken her nose a little bit. Can give her a little bit more texture on there. And so there we go. Yeah, inking metal is kind of tricky. I like to do it with, I like to just kind of, normally I would get like some reference on reflections or whatever if I was doing a painting. But when I'm doing comic books or whatever, I kind of just use more of the language of comics to do it. And the language of comics is kind of simplified reflections down a little bit into squiggles, as opposed to, if you really look at reflections, they don't really look like squiggles. They actually, you can see really in them, you can see, the reflection of the world around you. You can see yourself. You can see the trees around you, wherever you are. You can see reflected into the object. But since comics are just trying to be a little bit simpler because of printing and using pen and ink, we don't sit there and worry about rendering every single thing into a reflection. That's what painters do. So anyway, here's Bast. No, sorry, Sekhmet. I did it again. You can give her a little bit more of a growl or whatever. If you want to make her look a little bit more threatening, you can darken this area in here. And then We can shade a little bit there to just give it some volume. And we can shade a little there. Now this disc up here, I don't really feel like the disc fits her head anymore. So I think I'm actually going to get rid of the disc or rebuild it into another thing, because she does need to have the disc, because that's part of her sculpture or her figure. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to imagine the disc is sitting on her head like this, so it won't be a perfect circle. It'll come behind her ears and around like that, and we'll see the side of the disc over here. See what I'm getting at? So the disc will look three-dimensional in nature. And then, now that we know that that line is there, we can start throwing on these fire shapes. And they should be at their highest point or their center point right along here, because you don't want them to feel like they're in the middle, because we need to have that angle. So because of the angle, you're going to see them kind of get smaller as they hit here, and then we're going to see the back of them like this, and they're going to get smaller as they go that way. Okay, and then we can put a shadow on it like that, if that helps make it feel three-dimensional, and then get rid of that center line there. Okay, so I think that's Sekhmet for today. If you want to, you can draw some cool swirls up here, make it look like it's made of metal too. Do the same on this. You can put some reflection lines on her headdress so it feels like that's made of metal if you want. You get really elaborate with all this reflection stuff if you want. If you don't want to, you just leave it simple. Get in here. And it just kind of tricks our eyes into seeing it as being shiny. The belt, we can make it go to dark. And I think we're pretty much done. So I hope you had fun drawing with us. I hope this... Yeah, walk into it. Well, you know, it's funny. Like I said, at the Met, if you go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in Manhattan, they have a temple in there called the Temple of Dender. And it's an entire Egyptian temple that they took from Egypt. And there are a whole bunch of statues of Sekhmet and Bast. Both of them are cat female gods. I think Bast is a goddess of healing and Sekhmet is a goddess of war. Just not sure exactly. But they're both cool. And they both look very similar in their statue form. So let's say we want this to look like it's in a desert, because, you know, where else is she going to fight but in a windy desert? So what you can do is back here, just draw some kind of rough lines to kind of define the ground, and then you can try some swirly shapes as if the wind is blowing the sand around. So you could have sandy whirls kind of coming out here like this. And then you could throw some flecks in there where stuff is flying through the air. And maybe off in the background you can throw a pyramid. We'll make it in silhouette, so it sits far into the distance. Wee! I don't know why I did that noise. It's like creepy monster noise. Yeah, so We can do another pyramid back here. Smaller and further away. And now you got a piece. All right. Well, anyway, have some fun. I hope you had some fun time drawing today. I certainly did. I got to sign this puppy. I guess this kitty. And there's the exclamation point. And I hope you had fun. Oh, wait, metal. On the sword, if you want to make the sword feel a little bit like it's shiny or edged, just draw some lines across it like this. It kind of makes it feel like a flat, thin, reflective object. There we go. Anyway, see you later, guys. And have a great day.